Hi, my name's Andy Biggs from Arizona's 5th Congressional District. I'm a congressman, and I have with me a special guest here today, Steve Carlston, General Manager of Mesa, Golfland Sunsplash. Steve has worked for the company there for over 20 years. He began as a soda machine attendant for the catered group functions at a young age, and since then has been honored to be the manager for every department before he came to be the general manager. Steve is married and has a son at home who wish he were there more often, but they understand that his job is very demanding of his time and attention. He owes a huge amount of his ability to be successful here in his business to both of his son and his wife. Mesa Golfland Sunsplash has always been committed to providing a safe environment for entertainment and fun to the residents of Arizona for 35 years. These unprecedented times are no different. If they could not keep our guests safe in all aspects, they would not still be in business. They're honored to be part of this community and hope to continue to do so for many years to come. And I'll just say, Steve, I'll just add a little bit to your bio there. I mean, if you live in the East Valley and have for any length of time, you've spent time going down one of those slides into the water at Sunsplash, and I can't help but recollect Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and I'll put that behind me. But the reality is just a very important part of our community. Tell me what's going on, and you guys are closed up now, and tell me about that.
Yeah, the water park operations are completely closed. Not only did we interpret the Executive Order 43 to mean that, but that was confirmed on a phone call with the governor's office general counsel, that it did mean that we did have to close. So just as we did before, we remain closed as the order prescribed. And, you know, a lot of us hope that if we follow the orders that we might get some relief at some point for being the obedient, but that doesn't seem to be turning out to be the case. So
you were working with the governor's office trying to meet the guidelines that they put out, in particular for swimming pools, et cetera. Tell me, what specifically did you guys do to bring yourselves into compliance?
Well, one of the struggles that we had was, you know, that it was always suggested for not just us, but a lot of other businesses to remain at 50% capacity. One thing to point out is that we don't have a capacity in our water park. It's outdoors.
Right.
So there's no requirement on the fire marshal to come out and calculate any kind of a capacity. Now, in normal times, you know, before pre-pandemic, we could get as many as 5,000 people in this park, and we have done so on multiple occasions. It's a little overwhelming, but we have done it. However, what we did is we went by some guidelines that were issued to us through IAPA, which is the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. It's a very large organization that pretty much all the entertainment industry belongs to, where they gave us calculations, and they said, look, this is how you need to calculate it. And it comes down to a calculation of 28.3 square feet for every person so that they can keep social distancing. So I went through all the available areas. I didn't take the whole park, just what areas people could be on the pool decks, in the wave pool, in line on the slide, so on and so forth. And that came closer to about 3,500, and I decided to cut that in half. And so we stayed below 1,750 guests every single day that we were open. That was the best calculation we could go by. So outside of that, obviously increased sanitation, you know, aside from the fact that we have close to 1 million gallons of sanitizer sitting in the park that everyone is bathing in. But outside of that, you know, I bought company-wide, you know, because we have more locations than just this one, but company-wide, I purchased over 150 gallons of hand sanitizer in bulk, which we kept refilled all day, every day in multiple dispensers throughout the park. So it was available at high touch locations like the locker area, the snack bar areas, the entrance and exit to pool areas, so on and so forth. On top of everything else we see everywhere else, you know, staff is all required to wear masks. All the line queues are marked, you know, all the things that you would expect we had in place.
So you guys invested in compliance, and you were
heavily.
Yeah. So you spent money. You were trying to put yourselves in a way that you could safely open up, minimize the risk. Let's just put it that way. You guys were minimizing the risk, and you were working with the governor's office, I think. And
Yes.
how did you find out that they were not going to let you open, or that they were going to shut you down?
In the press conference that afternoon on the 29th of June. There was no communication ahead of time. Even though the communication lines have been open since, I believe, mid to late April, there was no communication ahead of time letting us know that that was coming.
Well,
it's a good thing I paid attention.
well, it makes me wonder. I mean, and I hesitate to ask this question, but I mean, do you feel like they were working with you in good faith?
I had been for quite some time. It wasn't until recently that I realized that the communication was in an effort to placate. And once you realize that, it becomes moot. It becomes a waste of time.
Wow. Well, so one of the things that, and I was telling you before we got on, is that I happened to talk to a mayor of a valley city today, and their pools are open. Their public pools are open, and you guys can't open. And
Right.
If you're on tribal lands, because you're exempt from state executive orders, you can open if you've got a water park, but you guys can't.
Right.
What? I mean,
how do you respond to all that, right?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I understand what the defense argument would be for Great Wolf, is that it is on sovereign land and that the executive orders do not apply. But, a common sense argument could have been that, well, there's a water park. Not only is it not outdoor, it's indoor, and we don't have the ability to shut it down, which means if we close down all the rest and the target group that we are trying to affect still want to go out and do what they've been doing, now they're all going to go to one place instead of having three options, which, they had Six Flags, us, and Great Wolf at the time of the closure.
Yeah, to me, it's part and parcel of what I've seen for months now, and this is what I would view as an inconsistent strategy, and certainly not fair to you guys. And I mean, I've asked this question before: is what's the science behind closing a water park, or what's the science and data behind closing a bar? What's the science or data behind closing a gym? What's the science or data behind saying you can't go tubing on the Salt River, for Pete's sakes? Can you give me that science and give me that data? And
I can give you a little of my own science if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it, Steve. Come on.
All right. So I have, during the summer season, I have a rough estimate, 700 employees that are employed here to run the water park. There's lots of lifeguards, more than you would think, because unfortunately we do enjoy employing the younger generation and giving them the opportunity to enter the workforce. But there are certain types that have a hard time showing up for work. So we have to have plenty of extra to cover that. So out of 700 employees for the 6.5 weeks that we were open, we had absolutely 0 cases of COVID-19 amongst our staff. Not one.
Yeah. And that's the science and data that actually your real world experience reflects the science and data that's available to people who are looking for data. And
it would have been nice if they were looking and asking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it gets to this kind of thing where you guys think you're on board, you're all trying to be compliant, you're open for a few weeks, and the next thing you know, the plug is pulled. So you lose 700 employees, mostly, a lot of whom are youth, their first jobs, perhaps their first experience in the workforce, and their first experience is, hey, thanks for showing up, and hope life works out well for you the rest of the summer.
It wasn't just them too. I mean, I've had to make very unfortunate business decisions and furlough people that are year-round employees have been here for 10, 12, 15 years that are parents, grandparents, and
Yeah.
those are the decisions we had to make. I mean, I went from that 700 and, I'd have to check the hard numbers, but my best estimate, I'm down to maybe 40 staff right now.
That's incredible.
That's maintenance. That's everybody.
And so, yeah, well, so I assume that you have to keep maintaining your equipment, even though you can't use it as a revenue generator.
Yes, it is a huge amount of overhead.
So this may be a too personal question, but I mean, what is the stress caused to this business? I mean, Sunsplash, Golfland, I mean, are we talking, can you make it through this and continue business months from now, 6 months from now?
That is a question that we currently don't have an answer to. It all depends on what happens. There's a potential it could go either way.
It's incredible to me. To me. And so let's get down to the other heart of this matter. You're seeking judicial relief. You filed a lawsuit.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on there, whatever time table you're aware of, and help me understand.
So some of what we filed is similar to what others have filed in the past months. We are filing for a temporary restraining order against Executive Order 43 and 52 that extended 43. Along with that, it is mainly geared at the violation of the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law, where we've already kind of been talking about it and alluding to it, is that we're closed and competitors are allowed to remain open. We've lost market share at that point.
Yeah, that's right. So when we get talking about that, you filed the lawsuit. It's constitutionally based. You're making a constitutional argument. I do think the 14th Amendment is an appropriate legal rationale to pursue your relief. And have you already filed it? Do you have a kind of a briefing timetable? What's going on with it in the court?
Yeah, it was filed on Monday afternoon. I believe it was served Tuesday morning, and our first hearing is scheduled for August 20th, a week from tomorrow, next Thursday, and that is the TRO hearing, the temporary restraining order.
Right, and so I'm sure you're watching what's going on with Mount Site Fitness and the gym case
very closely.
Yeah. Well, and looking at that, the court, Judge Thomason there ordered that the administration put out a set of guidelines that had to be met before they could open. I've looked at those guidelines. Before I tell you what I think, which actually I told you before we came on, but before we tell the audience what I think, tell me what your experience is. What your thought is if you were to get guidelines like that.
Now, are you referring to the benchmarks or the guidelines along with the
benchmarks? Yeah, benchmarks.
The benchmarks. Okay. I find it very difficult to rationalize how the benchmarks for employees to get back to work is more stringent than allowing our students to go back to school. It's unconscionable that somehow all these businesses, and you can make different arguments for each different type of business, because each different type of business that is affected by the closures has a different argument to make. They can't get around that. We can't all just go in with the same idea, because we're not related to each other when it comes to business. But yeah, when I read through the benchmarks, when they were first given to me, I was invited to a Zoom call a few hours before they were published, where they kind of went through the rundown and explained it all to us. And a lot of the news media has assumed that we decided to file because of the benchmarks. Well, the truth is we had decided to file last week and planned on having it in by Friday. We just didn't have everything ready, and that was the reason it didn't go in until Monday. The benchmarks, in my opinion, and I could go on and on about it, but they are unfinished in my opinion. And not only that, but they're based on statistics. And while the input is constant, the output is controlled by whoever is putting it out there, and at times can be driven towards whatever agenda or whatever information you're wanting to represent.
So if I'm gonna parse your words for you just a sec. When you say that the inputs and the outputs are controlled by the same entity, that's really what you're saying.
Well, the input, theoretically, the input should be the same. If we're getting the information from the hospitals and so on, we would assume that in good faith they are giving the right numbers. Now, the output and how that output is represented is what I'm saying. Anyone who's ever used statistics can say, well, I can construe those statistics to show what I want it to show, but someone else could take the same statistic and make it show something completely different.
Yeah,
they don't make sense.
Well, and what I would say with the inputs here is they're all over the ballpark, because we do everything from death certificate matching, all these things so the people that are measuring the outputs, they actually have control over how you input the information and data. So that provides.
Well, there you go. I was incorrect on that. Thank you for the correction.
That's what I'm saying is, to me it's mind-boggling, and you raised it as well. Even the matrices for bringing in students back to school, ours are more rigorous, for instance, than our neighbors to the west, California, which doesn't make very much sense to me either. But I have to tell you, I'm glad you're fighting for your rights. You have to fight for your rights. It's too important at this time, and quite frankly, I won't get into all of it, because people who watch me, they will have heard me say this many times. But the reality is, what you're going through, when you say it's unconscionable, it is unconscionable. It's not fair. It's not just. And I'm not just saying that because some of your competitors open. It's because even businesses that aren't your competitors, that have massive footprints and have people coming through, they're allowed to open up with different guidelines than other businesses similarly situated. So this is all inconsistent. It's all hodgepodge. And quite frankly, the data doesn't support the decisions we're seeing. And that to me is extremely unfair and unjust. So
I agree 100%. One of the things, there's two comments that I've heard over and over again, and I am quite frankly tired of hearing them, which is that we don't make these decisions lightly and we understand the effect that it has. Well, that's a very personal comment that has a very impersonal connotation. For those of us affected by it, that means nothing to me. You still have my ability to earn a living. You have it shut down. The other comment, I can't say I've heard it multiple times, but and I won't reference who said it, but I think everyone will know, is the congratulatory statements of someone to Governor Ducey, where it was, oh, this is great. We were able to take these steps and keep the economy open, and look, it's worked. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but my economy is not open, and I could care less that the retail stores got to remain open. I'm not. And there's no rational reason, as you said, as to why they decided that I had to be closed.
No, absolutely right. And that's the part that I've been fighting about the whole time is okay, first of all, we all know that all of society and life have risks to them. Everything you do has risks. If we're going to be a free society, let's let you as a business owner and your customers determine the extent of the risk that they're willing to accept to go to your park and enjoy a marvelous time of hours of fun and relaxation. How about that? And that seems to me a far more just response than, hey, hey, you've done a great job. Because I can tell you this, the data and science shows that before they issued that closure of bars, gyms, water parks, and tubing on the Salt, we were already in a downward slope on everything from hospitalization rate to case fatality rate. There is
the R0 it now shows that we were below the mark by June 22nd. It shows that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so when you start looking at the data, what you see is there's no science that supports that particular executive order. It was done capriciously. That's a legal term, which means that
yes,
it was done without authority.
I know it.
Yeah, so it was arbitrary and capricious. And so I look at it and I say, for Pete's sakes, let's get this economy going again. You know what will happen? People will feel freer. They'll feel more confident. The panic and hysteria that's been engendered will dissipate. We'll get our schools open. People will get the economy going again. And you know what? We'll be America again. But until then, it's
absolutely. Let's not forget, and this is a whole other conversation, but I'll open it up. Let's not forget that the risk and the possible outcomes of the risk would be a lot better mitigated if we were allowed to go to our own general practitioners to get treated.
Absolutely right. And what you're alluding to is that it's criminal in Arizona to prescribe hydroxychloroquine, which is something that is considered to be a safe drug if you and your doctor want to do that, unless you've got lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, or you're going to a malaria-infested country. Why until a few months ago, it was okay to go what we call off-label. So your doctor could say, hey, look, I think you need some HCQ with zinc and a Z-Pak. Why is it now not okay? Why is it now criminalized? And I'll say this, I've been ticked off because nationwide, you have different standards everywhere, but we've stepped into that. But Steve, we could talk about that in a different Zoom interview. Yes, sir.
I got a lot of stuff you might be interested. I can send to you by email if you'd like. So
I'd love it.
I'm definitely one of those people that does not sit idle at any part of the day. I usually only get about 4 hours of sleep a night, and I spend every waking hour educating myself. I don't let others educate on what it is I need to know. I get my own education, and there's a lot to be said, in the realm of the direction we're going. But yeah, you're correct. That is a very long conversation.
Well, Steve, I'll just refer you. I've interviewed, I think, 6 different docs and scientists about that topic at various times. I think they're all up on Zoom right now. We never know if some social media giant's going to take down our social media.
Oh, I know.
But we're giving it a go.
Yeah.
Hey, I just will say thanks for taking time out with me. I wish you Godspeed and best of luck. I think your cause is just. We support you in my office, and I think it's tragic what's happened to your employees and what's happened to our community. And thanks for fighting. Really, a lot of gratitude to you for fighting it out. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the support.
All right. Well, Steve.
All right.
Steve Carlston, thanks. General Manager of Mesa Golfland Sunsplash. And with that, we're over and out. Till next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.